Joining us now, she's the head coach at Wichita State. She's been there now over a decade, and off to another great start for the Shockers. I speak of Kristi Bredbenner, who joins us back here on In the Circle. First of all, does it seem like it's been over a decade there? You've been the head coach there, Coach?
No, I actually had to go back and count it, a little bit. It's gone by fast, and, that only means we're getting a little bit older, which is scary. But, it's been a great 10 years here, and, year 10 so far has been a good one.
We're off to a great start, 13-3. What have you learned about your team now, 16 games in here that you've gotten in there, about your team that maybe you didn't know when the season started?
I think the big thing for us is they're a lot more resilient. They're having fun. They learned a lot, I think, from the previous 2 years that we've had maybe some abrupt endings. And, I think that they're in it for each other. And to me, I think that's one of the coolest things that we can go through right now as a program. We've got more kids on the team than we've ever had. And, because of that, you see more kids that are going to have to sit on the bench or potentially not travel. And, they're genuinely happy and supportive of each other. And, you don't see a lot of that selfishness that sometimes you see in programs that can bring them down. And I think it's the reason that we're having a lot of success this year is that they really want it for each other. They want it for themselves, but they want it for each other more. And I think that that's a good mantra to have going into this season.
So, I imagine that the consensus in talking to a lot of coaches, this is the deepest roster they've had. I'm assuming it's the same with you, as you just mentioned. How have you adjusted as a staff with that, having so many options on a roster that maybe you didn't have in the past?
Well, we throw a lot more batting practice. That's something that's definitely been very obvious is, we've got 20, 21 kids that are hitting. And so that makes BP last a little bit longer than it has in years past. But we're in a very fortunate situation that I feel we're really deep. And, with that, you can keep some kids fresh. You can give, certain people opportunities when, they seem to be a good matchup. You've just got more options, and you have to continue to keep getting the girls to buy into the fact that they're going to get their shot. And, this might be a year where they don't get as many opportunities, but they have somebody in front of them that they can really learn from. And, I think that that's a huge part of it. And, just managing the importance of who the good matchups are, what's going to give us our best opportunity, whether it's a defensive, philosophy for that particular game, because we know that they're going to run a little bit on us or bunt and slap and things like that. Or if it's a game we know is going to be a slugfest, and we've got to make sure that we're putting in our big boppers and giving ourselves a chance. And so I think those are the things that we're fortunate enough to have and have that depth and be able to make those decisions going into every game.
And that's been shown on your offense. You're off to a great start. You've hit 34 home runs in 16 games, hitting 333 average on the season. And it's depth in the lineup. One that maybe some people are not aware of is Addison Bernard, who's had 8 homers, 21 RBI. Started with her. For people that don't know her, what's her story and the contributions she's immediately made an impact on your offense?
Yeah, Addie Barnard was an early commit for us. A Nebraska kid. We had a group of them come down when they were pretty young to camp and, made some offers and she committed and knew she was very athletic and she's very fast. And, when you can kind of see those two things that you can't teach very well, you can't teach athleticism, you can't teach speed. You kind of knew that there was some intangibles in her that could make her a great player. And she's just made her game a bigger part of her life over the last couple of years. As far as power hitting, I wasn't sure that I don't think any of us expected her to hit 8 bombs in the first. She missed 2 games, so she's only played in 14 games. She pulled a hammy early in the season, and so she's only started 14. So, she's hit 8 home runs, almost a little bit over a home run every other game. And, she's just so strong. She's got a great mindset, goes up there and doesn't seem to let a whole lot phase her. I think at the end of the day, she's somebody that could be a catalyst within our offense for 4 years, and has really shown some maturity up at the plate and able to hit the change, able to hit the rise. I mean, she makes some really great adjustments with her balance to be able to barrel up the ball, and has some good bat speed. So I think, that combination's made her pretty deadly so far this year. Offensively for our team, I mean, it's one of those situations where we definitely, spend quite a bit of time on our offense. I mean, we hit a lot. We hit every single day. We're seeing some sort of live every single day. That makes it, it gives our kids an opportunity to be prepared for who we're going to play. We also do a lot of scouting. I think that's the big thing for us. We have a good game plan going into every single pitcher that we're going to face. And we're giving our kids that type of information to make sure that in their heads, they can kind of work through the at-bats and focus in on the type of pitcher that they're going to face. And so that's a testament to Coach Economan. She does an excellent job of watching film and understanding, the importance of who we're going to face and what we need to do to prepare for them. And keeping it simple at the same time. I mean, that's a lot of scouting and can kind of get in the girls' heads, but we definitely try to get our girls to believe that, you can be the best version of yourself. And sometimes that's, keeping it simple. And sometimes that's really putting a lot into the prep. It's whatever works best for you. And it's all out there and given to them to be prepared every single day. So, that's, I think, why our offense has paid off the most. We do a lot of the little things.
It's tremendous, and blending in the new faces with the veterans like a Madison Perrigan, who is among the best in the country, not only behind the plate, but at the plate. What can you say about her? She's off to a 3.14 average, 6 homers, 20 RBIs. Ho hum for her. What can you say about it that hasn't been said?
Yeah, I mean, she's just picking up where she left off. She had a great COVID year last year and was off to a really good start. And I think she, her biggest thing is she can't put too much pressure on herself. She has to continue just doing what she does. And she's a great hitter. She's got a good eye. She can hit both sides of the plate. She just has to relax and play the game. And she's done a really good job of that as of late. She's hit some really hard balls too that, against Creighton. She had one the other day against Nebraska Omaha that are out at any other ballpark. But, good old Wichita, the wind was blowing in at a good 15 to 20 mile an hour pace and just held him up and ended up catching him at the wall. So she's got some power and really gets the game, understands it. She's got all the experience that we could ask for from a postseason perspective to, early in the season, not letting, 1 or 2 at bats define you. And so we're seeing that with her. I thought she started off a little slow this year and has really kind of come into her own.
Is she the leader of this team, vocal leader? Who are some of the leaders, not necessarily just with their performance on the, when they're on the field, but like the vocal leader on the team that you lean on?
Yeah, I mean, she's definitely one of them. I think all of our seniors have really done a good job, whether it's Bailey Nickerson in the outfield or Riley Buck in the infield, Madison and Bailey Lang, with the battery. I mean, we've got a pretty veteran team with lots of experience. And so you're seeing all of them step up and kind of take the bull by the horns a little bit. We let them play a lot. There's, we obviously manage and do what we can, but at the same time, a lot of that leadership is brought upon by themselves and letting them have that power to be great leaders. And they do a nice job of that. And I think enjoy the game and have really been making sure that our younger kids this semester have gotten to know them and understand what it's going to take to be on the field, but also compete at a high level.
Let's talk about your pitching staff. Certainly off to a good start, 2.10 ERA as a staff. Bailey Lang, 6-1 on the year with a 1.26 ERA. Great to see her healthy and dominant again like she was in 2018. Talk about her progression, because I know she's dealt with some injuries in 2019 in particular, but she looks like her old conference self like she was in 2018 right now.
Yeah, she looks great, and I think her mindset's totally different. She had a pretty tough 2019 with some injuries and some personal things that I think went on. And, I think the biggest thing for her is she's enjoying the game. I mean, you can see that she really is enjoying the game and enjoying going out there and competing. And, I think, our pitching staff had a pretty adverse last couple years. I mean, we had a pitching coach change from the 2019 season into the 2020 season. 2020 season, pitching wise, we were not stellar. We were not very good at all, to be honest with you. And, our pitching coach decided not to come back partway through the year in January. And so they are lucky enough to deal with Coach Bredbenner, and we promoted our graduate manager, Presley Bell, who pitched at Houston, to more of a graduate assistant type role. And so they're lucky enough to get Presley and I in the bullpen. Presley a little bit more than me lately, but, when we first came back, they were the ones that I was the most worried about. They had faced the most adversity, and, knowing how much they struggled last year, to perform, we knew that was going to be the area that we had to see the biggest change in. And I think it's been a very good relationship since we came back in January. I mean, we really focused in on what works best for them and how can we get prepared, kind of touching back into when we were at our best, what are the things that we were doing, how are we pitching, what was our mindset, not making cupcake workouts by any means, because we don't want it to be easy for them, but creating challenging bullpens that are going to be productive and really are going to prepare us more for in-game success, like hitting spots and pounding the zone and being able to keep our off-speed pitches down and, having pitches with purpose versus just pitching. And, I think that, they've really taken to that type of philosophy. They've worked very hard. They understand that, not only are they the ones everybody, needs to count on every single game defensively, but, they've been the ones that have struggled in the past, and they want to change that type of a mindset. And so far this year, they've been doing a really good job of it. Our walks are down from, previous years at this time. I mean, we would have as equal walks as strikeouts. And, I think that those are the things that I'm most proud of right now with this team is just really seeing this resiliency in this group and just the desire to compete and show people that they've got good stuff. They just needed, the opportunity to go out there and get after it a little bit.
It's been working. Aaron McDonald's off to a good start as well, 5-1. You've got Caitlin Bingham, who you've kind of used as a reliever at times. 6 appearances, 3 starts, can start in relief, has 2 saves. Just talk about the staff kind of approach there. And you mentioned you're involved in it now more. When did you decide, hey, I got to be more involved? And then Presley, somebody that knows the league very well from her time in Houston and with your staff.
Yeah, I think when the change happened in January, I knew that, we weren't going to hire a pitching coach full time. It just wasn't great timing, on either ends. And, to be as least disruptive, in my opinion, it was better for us to get involved, for me to get involved and for Presley to get involved more than it was to find somebody new. And, I think we immediately took to getting as much information from them as possible. And, I think that helped out. It calmed the nerves a little bit, and a little bit of that concern of, what's going to happen here went away. And it just made them more relaxed. I mean, we are, that was one thing when it comes to hitting that we always felt success with, is that the more relaxed we were at the plate, the more successful we were. And that's that same type of mindset. We want them to have relaxed bullpens, productive and beneficial bullpens, but they need to be relaxed. We can't be, worried and scared and, focused on things that are out of our control. And so we really started, like I said, pushing them to work the strike zone, pound the zone, eliminate the walks, let our defense work for us a little bit. We know we're going to score runs. So if we're giving up 1 or 2 runs a game, we're going to be okay. And I just think they've done a great job. Bingham kind of came out with a little bit of a slow start. She ran into a really scrappy Corpus Christi team, and, defensively, we just struggled against them. And, I think Aaron and Bailey came out kind of hot, but Bingham is starting to gain steam, and she's come in a couple times, like you said, in relief and shut some teams down. She had a nice game against Missouri State here on Thursday when we played. And, I think it's just a matter of everybody getting comfortable. Erin's ERA is a little inflated too. She pitched the game against Texas, and, I just don't know that we were quite ready to play that type of a swinging team. And she gave up 8 earned runs in that game. But really, since that game and even the game she pitched prior, she did a really great job. And so I'm excited about this staff. I think, like you said, Presley being a pitcher in the league, kind of knows those tendencies and understands what it takes to compete. I also think that we have some depth in there, and with us having to play a 4-game series in the American Conference, I think it changes your philosophy and your pitching structure of how you're going to do things. And, we're going to have to rely on Haley Martinez to come in and be able to help and maybe get us out of a jam or give us a couple innings to allow our pitchers to stay a little bit fresher. And so we're going to use all 4 as strategically as we possibly can to have success. And, I'm pretty proud of those 4 and think that they can do a good job with it.
We're speaking with Kristi Bredbenner, head coach at Wichita State, here on In the Circle. For your veterans, I think it's a unique story here. In 2018, you obviously had that great year. You played South Florida for the regular season American Conference Championship in Tampa the final weekend of the season. I remember Tampa, obviously, we were the conference tournament. You made the NCAA tournament, got in Fayetteville, got to the regional final. And then in 2019, you beat UCF in Houston for the in the first round of the conference tournament that gets washed out. So you don't get that opportunity to play yourself into the tournament. And then in 2020, obviously, we know what happened with the season ending with COVID. How much of all that is right now on the veterans' minds about that hunger to get back and, finish a job they felt they haven't been able to finish the last 2 years?
I think it's a huge part. It's something they talk about a lot. Our director of ops actually was a senior in 2019, so her season ended abruptly. So we've got a little bit of that in everything on the staff and on the team. And I think those are great life lessons. I mean, for our seniors, Bailey, Madison, and Riley, who were technically seniors last year and got the COVID second chance, you have to think back and wonder, man, what if they wouldn't have given me this second opportunity? And, now that I have it, I've got to make the most of it. And, I think those are good life lessons for our kids down the road and in whatever they pursue. But I think more than anything, it's kind of driving the train a little bit this year. They're not going to leave anything untouched. They're going to put their mark on everything that they possibly can. They're going to give their all, and they're going to play each game like it's their last, because it's happened to us a couple times. And, we were playing great in 2019 at the end of the year. We had a slow start to that season, I felt like, and, really we're playing great softball. I think we beat South Florida 2 out of 3 and lost 1-0 in the one game, that we did lose. And then we went in and played a really tough Central Florida team and beat them, and felt like the momentum was really in our favor. And, unfortunately, we can't control a lot of things, and the weather's one of them. And, what we can do is control now what we do in that preseason, what we focus in on early that can really affect us late and put ourselves in a position RPI-wise to try to not be in that position anymore.
How much of a motivation has that been, the message that, hey, let's get off to a good start. Let's not dig ourselves a hole that we got to try to get out of it, like, in the second half, because you just don't know what you can't control. Control what you can control, which is get off to a great start and then, finish the job later.
Well, I think the big thing is just go out there and compete every single day. You can compete and be playing your best and still be losing some games here left and right. But, I think winning the games we have to win. I think those are the things that are important. In 2019, we lost some games that we shouldn't have lost, and those are the ones that end up killing you in the RPI. We always play a tough schedule. I mean, our midweek games are pretty unmatched across the country, probably, with our ability to play pretty tough teams with the OUs and OSUs and Arkansas and Nebraskas and teams that are predominantly, in the top 20, top 25. And so, we can get those tough games. It's managing a good schedule, making sure you're giving your kids an opportunity to have success early. And there's been times when it's been a little too tough at the beginning. And I think 2019 was one of those years. And so we looked at our schedule and really focused in on trying to play as competitive a schedule, but also really kind of focusing in on getting some wins early to give ourselves some confidence, knowing that, when we hit the American Conference schedule and when we hit our midweek schedule, we're going to get a lot of those really, really tough opponents that we're going to have to play our best against and hopefully come away some big wins.
Of course, the schedule this year is so unique for everybody, because they've had to adjust on the fly before the season, who you can play, who you can't play, maybe some restrictions. And then Mother Nature's also played a role here. So take me through that as you've figured out this schedule, which is still, obviously, you never know, has to be adjusted based on a lot of different factors.
Well, yeah, I mean, right off the bat, first weekend out, and initially on our schedule, we were supposed to go to Georgia Tech the very first weekend of the season. Ended up cutting that because of budget, just could not afford to make that trip, unfortunately. And so we took off the first weekend. And then first weekend that we were technically supposed to play, we we're supposed to go to UT Arlington. They have the snow and the ice and the cold, and everybody's pipes are breaking. And Jeff Cottrell called me from Oklahoma State and said, "Hey, we're going to go down to Houston. Would you be interested in playing at Scrapyard?" And, initially in my head, I was like, we can't afford that. That's a pretty big change. It's a longer drive. What's it going to look like? And really, it ended up working out pretty well. Oklahoma State did a nice job with North Texas of getting that set up. And we were able to go down there, played Texas that, I'm not quite sure we were ready for, but at the same time, it was a great game to kind of see where we were against a top 25 team right off the bat. But for us, it was about just getting the games in, and our kids were excited to play. We were able to make it work, and it wasn't as big of a deal as we thought. And then for us, we rolled the dice all year. I mean, we have 28 home games on the schedule, which is more than we've had combined in the last 2 years. And we played Creighton in February, and the chances of getting a game in February in Wichita are 50-50. I feel like sometimes we practice way more than anybody ever thinks we would outside in January and February. And so it was worth the chance. And we got all 3 games in. The weather was great. We played well. And I think for us, that was that momentum that we really kind of needed. And we ended up heading down to UT Arlington and having a great weekend. And, so the schedule we all know that the schedule is always going to be up for a potential change because we could have a COVID issue. We could have weather issues. I mean, we just have to continue to keep fighting. And if something happens that doesn't necessarily affect our team, is there another place we can go and play? We're always going to look for that at the same time and just get our kids out on the field to make the most of this crazy season that we're having.
Well, and it's a tough schedule. You mentioned you played it against Texas up earlier this year. You beat Iowa State recently in the rankings. You're going to go to Oklahoma State, play them a couple times as part of a tournament. You've got Oklahoma scheduled to come to your place for a midweek. You got Kansas City, which some people may not be aware of, is really playing some good softball right now.
Yes.
So you really, I mean, you got to go to Kansas. You got Arkansas at the end of the year. Just talk about that schedule and really that region, because a lot of these games you play every year in midweeks, which is a huge plus from an RPI standpoint and to challenge your team.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing for us is that we're very fortunate that we're in a region right here where within 5 hours we can play some really great teams. I mean, I predict North Texas is going to be a team that's, tough to beat in their league. I think South Dakota State's the team that I think to look out for. Yeah. I think we've got a really great chance of winning the Summit League. And, Krista came down and played us here this last week, which was a first for us. It was great. But we just have so many great teams that are around us. And, normally we would play Nebraska, obviously the Big Ten's playing their own schedule, but you even add some of those Big Ten schools, and Missouri's only 5 hours from us. So we're going to try to head down there next year, which we played there last year. So our kids can really compete against some of the best right off the bat, midweeks. And, I think that's been something that all of us have looked at from a budget standpoint is that, how good of a schedule can I make for this team on a budget? And we're just super fortunate that, within driving distance, we've got great softball into Oklahoma and Texas and Arkansas, Kansas. I mean, just like you said, you can make a pretty solid schedule that if you can, pull off some big wins and continue to keep winning the games that you're supposed to win, put yourself in a position to be an at-large team.
Conference, you mentioned going to a 4-game schedule. Just talk about what was that like from the coaches in the league as you discussed that and the options you had going to that 4-game series option.
Well, I think it really just kind of depended on who you talk to. I mean, I think our southern schools, the Central Florida and South Florida, East Carolina, they're used to having tournaments and they're used to hosting teams that are coming down for spring break. And, they usually would never in a normal year have problems scheduling 56 games. And they did. They were getting to the point where they were at 38 and 40. And, they kept talking about how, if we went to a 4-game schedule, it would help them because it guaranteed them 6 more games. Well, I was at 50, and 51 already. And I know Vesley down in Houston, had a pretty good number of games. And Natalie at Memphis had a pretty good number of games. And so we all were kind of split because, we were doing okay getting midweeks and figuring out schedules and stuff like that. But I think the South Florida, Central Florida crew was getting strapped a little bit from a budget standpoint too, because they're used to hosting. They're not used to spending the money to travel. And so it's kind of a double-edged sword for them. So I think once we all talked through it as a coaching group, we decided that playing the 4-game series, if anything, was going to guarantee this year that we would play 24 games if something crazy did happen and, COVID would wipe out the whole preseason. And so we made that decision for a couple of reasons. I think for that reason, and then to really kind of help the schools that were struggling to get into the high 40s, low 50s for number of games played on the season. And, it brings a completely different element to the weekend. Now you're playing a 1-2-1 at most places. And so that doubleheader on Saturday becomes a lot more strategic on how you're going to pitch, how you're going to stay fresh, who's going to throw on Sunday. It just really opens up an opportunity for a win for a team that maybe, isn't the strongest one of the weekend, because I already thought it was really tough to beat a team 3 times. And now to play them 4 times and beat them all 4 times is only going to be, more difficult, especially in our league. I think our league is just a competitive, very tough, across the board a league that gets out there and, they might do terrible in the preseason, and all of a sudden when conference play comes on, it's just like they've completely stepped up our games. And, so I anticipate it being very competitive, very fun. I think, you look at the teams and how they're doing across the board, and you can't look past the fact that some of our teams have played some of the toughest schedules I've ever seen. Memphis has played a brutal schedule. I think they've only played 1 or 2 games against non-top 25 teams. And, that explains maybe their slow start. They're competing in every one of those games. And so you got to expect that as soon as they kind of get there and get their legs underneath them a little bit more, they're going to be ready to go in a tough American Conference. You've got Cindy's team knocking off Arizona this past week and obviously playing some really good softball at Central Florida. I mean, Corrick down at South Florida is always going to be tough, no matter what the circumstances are. And, I've been watching East Carolina and Houston and Tulsa, teams that I felt like have some new kids in their program or have some different things going on with them that haven't been the norm. And they're still competing and they're doing well. And, I just think at the end of the day, it's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be fun. And, I hope for everybody's sake, we get through it healthy and we all get to play every single game every weekend to really see who the top dog is in the conference.
Well, and we talked about this when we were in Tampa that year in the conference tournament. That was the year the league got 4 bids in. It was a top 5 RPI league. It's a strong league, and I would imagine part of it also with the 4-game schedule does help your RPI. You're playing tough competition for the resume for the tournament and the committee.
Yeah, you got to think that that's going to be a big part of it. And, I thought, and, I'm on the committee for the region, and I thought RPI was supposed to come out this past week. I haven't seen it at least published. I'm not sure what the situation is. I know we've got a meeting next week to kind of start talking about regional rankings. And, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how they figure out things this year, because it is an abnormal year. You've got, the Big Ten basically kind of separating themselves from everybody. And you've got the ACC with some restrictions on their games and increasing their number of opponents, I think, against each other. And, it's going to be an interesting situation for postseason. And I think the best thing that we could have done in the American was just increase our games against each other, because like you said, those are going to be good RPI games. I think last year we had the worst RPI in the league in a bad year for us. And, outside of that, normally we're all, in the double-digit RPI category, not normally getting very many that are in the triple-digit RPI category.
No question. And the goal I know at the league is try to be kind of like 2018, get 4 bids in, be one of the strongest leagues in the country and get that word out. And I think the results so far out of the conference are showing that once again here in 2021. Couple things before we let you go. You mentioned the seniors that came back for that extra year, one of them being Riley Buck. Talk about her, because she's a great story. She's been a big part of your program. Great player, infielder. What has she meant to your program and having her around?
Well, Riley came with some interesting circumstances. Originally committed to Central Florida, and wasn't able to make it work from a I guess you could say slight medical standpoint down there. And we were comfortable here with giving her an opportunity and excited to have her. And it took her a year, I think, to kind of get into what she needed to from a Division I perspective, because she's got a lot of really great qualities. I mean, she's a good team kid. She's always cheering and happy, and that person that talks it up all the time. So great leader from that perspective. And she's just gotten better at a lot of things. She works really hard. She's in great shape. I mean, there's a lot of qualities in her that you hope that, your underclassmen can mirror, and see that hard work pays off. And, I think she's so far having a pretty great fifth year COVID year situation. And, I think her biggest thing is just to not overthink it, have fun, keep enjoying the game, and staying loose. And she's done a nice job for us at the corner at third. And, I think for her, it's just, go out with a bang. It's her last year. She wants to make the most of it. And I think she's going to do that.
Yeah, her and the part of that great group that you have, they're veterans and leaders with some unfinished business, I'm sure. And my last question is, as you move forward through the season, what's going to be some of the keys for your team to accomplish your internal goals that you have?
Well, I think we're going to have to continue to keep hitting it on all three parts. I mean, I think our defense has to continue to use each game for more and more experience, because I always think that's one of the most difficult things moving forward is when your pitchers are pitching well and you're hitting well, your defense has to stay with their legs underneath them. And so we've got to hit it on all three parts. Our pitching's got to continue to keep improving and adjusting and, competing, eliminating the walks and pounding the zone a little bit more. I think offensively, we've got to be able to make adjustments and continue to kind of keep our, hit streaks going and hit for power, but also make adjustments depending on that pitcher that we're going to face. And we got to continue. I think the biggest piece of our pie is that we've got to continue playing as a team, and we have to continue supporting each other, and that this is more of a team game, and be happy for each other and supportive of each other, because I think it's just, you see it across the board with every other team. When you have inflated numbers and you've got more kids sitting on the bench, and the deeper you get into the season, they get a little bit more, discouraged that they're not going to get that opportunity, that they forget sometimes that there's somebody in front of them that they can learn so much from. And I think they have to kind of share in their experiences, even if they're not on the field, and really take what they're seeing and make the most of it, and get better at practice every single day, and hope that, when they get an opportunity, if they're called upon, that they're ready to go, because they've been preparing the whole season instead of sulking the whole season because they weren't getting to play. Those are huge things for our program. I think that, we've got a lot of great depth. We've got a lot of great players. We're having a lot of fun. We're competing every single day. We're putting in the work to be competitive. We just can't take the foot off the throttle. We have to continue to get better as the season progresses, and know that we're going to take some lumps, know that we're going to run into some really tough competition in the OSUs, the OUs, the Central Floridas. And we've just got to be able to put together our best game to go in there and give our best shot. And a lot of that just comes with attitude, effort, and all those fun things that are controllable.
Well, Coach, it's going to be exciting to see the team the rest of the way here. Off to a great start. Thanks for taking the time on a busy schedule. We'll talk to you later on in the season as the season develops, but good luck the rest of the way, and stay safe.
Thanks so much, Eric.